Welcome back to Mystery Minds, the channel where we dive into the darkest corners of true crime, uncovering stories that shock, intrigue, and leave us questioning the world around us. In today's case, we bring you a gripping tale of power, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of justice. This is the story of the FBIVs, the Mafia, a battle of wits. A tale of calculated risks, hidden alliances, and high-stakes deception. This case will leave you wondering, how far will the law go to dismantle a criminal empire? And how does a shadowy underworld fight back against those who dare to expose them? Stay with us as we unravel the intense and suspenseful showdown between the FBI and one of the most dangerous mafia families in history. It all began with a simple tip. A whispered name passed through the shadows of an underground poker den. For decades, the Vitale Mafia family ruled the East Coast, untouchable in their criminal empire. But when the FBI received that one crucial lead, a dangerous game of cat and mouse began, a battle that would change everything. In 1992, the Vitale Mafia family ruled the East Coast with an iron grip, their influence stretching far beyond the criminal underworld. From drug trafficking and extortion to illegal gambling and arms deals, their empire was vast and impenetrable. Led by the shrewd and calculating Don Luca Vitale, the family's power came not just from fear but from strategic alliances. Politicians, law enforcement officials, and business tycoons all fell under their shadow, ensuring that even the most ambitious investigations against them were buried before they began. For the FBI's organized crime unit, the Vitale family was the ultimate target. The agency had spent years gathering scraps of intelligence, yet every effort to infiltrate or prosecute the family ended in failure. Witnesses disappeared, evidence mysteriously vanished, and those who dared to oppose the Vitales often met grim fates. The family's tight-knit structure and their ability to instill fear made them virtually untouchable. But that changed with one unexpected twist, a man who had everything to lose and no way out. Victor Russo wasn't a high-ranking member of the Vitale family, but his position as a mid-level operative granted him access to secrets that could tip the scales in the FBI's favor. For years, Russo had been loyal, managing the family's illegal gambling operations and ensuring a steady flow of profits into their accounts. Yet, like many in the organization, Russo lived under constant pressure, always looking over his shoulder, always fearful of making the wrong move. One mistake in the world of organized crime could mean death, and Russo's growing paranoia had finally reached its breaking point. When Russo approached the FBI, it wasn't out of a sense of justice. He was desperate. Cornered by a failed deal and facing the Vitale family's wrath, he knew his time was running out. Offering to cooperate, Russo provided what the FBI had been waiting for, a detailed map of the family's operations. He revealed the identities of several lower-ranking members, the locations of safe houses, and the intricate system of coded communications the Vitales used to stay ahead of the law. For the FBI, Russo's defection was a golden opportunity, but it came with risks. Protecting him was no small task. The Vitales were relentless when it came to hunting down traitors, and the moment Russo's cooperation became known, the family wasted no time. A bounty was placed on his head, and whispers spread through the criminal underworld. The FBI scrambled to keep Russo safe, moving him and his family into protective custody. But secrecy was fragile, and every passing day increased the likelihood of a leak. While Russo's information was invaluable, it was far from enough to bring down the Vitale family. The FBI needed more names of higher-ranking members, financial records, and, most importantly, a way to dismantle the leadership. Russo's insights provided pieces of the puzzle, but the picture remained incomplete. The agents knew they had to act quickly. The longer they waited, the greater the chance that the Vitales would uncover their plans and retaliate. As the FBI began piecing together their strategy, they uncovered an unsettling truth. The Vitale family had a network of informants within law enforcement itself. Investigations had been derailed for years by leaks from inside the agencies tasked with bringing the family to justice. This revelation only deepened the challenge. Russo's information was their lifeline, but they couldn't trust everyone with the details of the operation. A small, dedicated team was formed, working in secret to devise a plan that would strike at the heart of the Vitale empire. The tension grew as the agents delved deeper into the case. Every step forward felt like a step closer to danger. Rousseau's testimony hinted at the true scale of the family's influence, and the more they uncovered, the clearer it became that the Vitales weren't just a criminal organization, they were a shadow government, operating parallel to the legitimate systems of power. Then came the first major breakthrough. Rousseau provided the name of a man who could lead them to Don Luca himself. It was a gamble, but the FBI was willing to take the risk. What they didn't realize was that this tip would set off a chain of events that no one could control. The battle against the Vitale family had begun, and neither side was prepared to lose. With Victor Rousseau's defection providing a glimpse into the Vitale Mafia family's operations, the FBI launched an ambitious mission to dismantle the criminal empire from within. This wasn't just about taking down the foot soldiers. The FBI needed to strike at the core of the organization Don Luca Vitale and his trusted circle. It was clear that a standard investigation wouldn't work. The Vitales had spent decades building a system impervious to outside attacks, their organization a fortress protected by loyalty, fear, and an intricate web of coded communications. To penetrate this fortress, the FBI devised Operation Black Diamond, a covert plan that would require deception, risk, and exceptional precision. At the heart of the operation was Special Agent Rachel Steele, a seasoned operative known for her ability to blend seamlessly into any environment. Steele was no stranger to danger. She had built a reputation as one of the Bureau's most skilled undercover agents. Her mission was to infiltrate the Vitale's inner circle and gather the evidence needed to bring them down. Rachel's cover was meticulously crafted. She would pose as a high-stakes gambler with connections to offshore accounts, a profile designed to attract the interest of the Vitale family. The operation began in the glitzy underground world of illegal poker games, where the stakes weren't just monetary but also a test of character and trust. It didn't take long for her to catch the attention of Enzo Vitale, Don Luca's nephew and a rising star within the organization. Enzo was known for his sharp instincts, and gaining his trust would be no easy task. The process of infiltration was slow and deliberate. Steele's every move had to be calculated, every interaction flawless. Enzo was suspicious of newcomers, but he was also ambitious. Steele's ability to hold her own in high-pressure gambling situations and her supposed access to offshore accounts made her a valuable asset. As Enzo began to warm to her, he introduced her to more of the family's operations. Through him, she learned about the money laundering schemes that funneled millions of dollars through legitimate businesses and offshore entities. She also discovered details about an upcoming shipment of contraband, a major operation that could provide the FBI with the leverage they needed. But the deeper Rachel went, the higher the risks became. The Vitales were experts at spotting deceit, and one slip could cost her life. Every interaction was a test, every question a potential trap. The stakes escalated when Enzo insisted that she meet with other members of the organization, each one more dangerous than the last. Rachel's ability to stay composed under pressure was put to the ultimate test as she navigated these encounters, all while secretly feeding information back to her handlers. Despite the progress, cracks began to form in the operation. The FBI's organized crime unit was under immense pressure to show results, and tensions within the team were running high. Rousseau's information, while valuable, had its limitations, and some agents began to question whether Rachel's mission would yield the breakthrough they needed. To make matters worse, the Vitales seemed to have an uncanny ability to anticipate the FBI's moves, leading to suspicions that there might be a leak within the Bureau itself. As the FBI scrambled to verify their intelligence, Rachel uncovered a chilling detail. The upcoming shipment wasn't just another transaction, it was a critical deal that could cement the Vitales' dominance for years to come. The shipment was worth millions and involved dangerous players far beyond the Vitale family's usual network. If the deal went through, it would make the family nearly untouchable. The FBI faced a difficult choice. They could move in on the shipment and risk exposing Rachel's cover, or they could wait for more evidence and gamble with the possibility of losing their chance to strike. Meanwhile, Rachel's position within the organization grew more precarious. Enzo's trust in her was tempered by his own paranoia, and she began to sense that her every move was being closely watched. As the date of the shipment approached, the tension reached a breaking point. Rachel's reports grew more cryptic, her messages laced with an undercurrent of urgency. The FBI knew they were running out of time, but what they didn't know was that the Vitale family had started to suspect that someone in their midst was working against them. The walls of the operation were closing in, and the stakes had never been higher. What neither the FBI nor Rachel realized was that this mission was about to take a dangerous turn, one that would test the limits of their resolve and loyalty. Hidden beneath the surface of the operation was a trap waiting to be sprung, and no one would emerge unscathed. As Operation Black Diamond unfolded, the FBI believed they were inching closer to dismantling the Vitale Mafia family. Special Agent Rachel Steele's infiltration was progressing, with her gaining access to critical information about the family's operations. But what the Bureau didn't realize was that the greatest threat to their mission wasn't outside the organization, it was within their own ranks. Mark Ellison, a senior FBI agent, had always been regarded as a reliable member of the organized crime unit. He had a reputation for being diligent and meticulous, a man who lived and breathed his work. But what his colleagues didn't know was that Ellison carried a dark secret. A compulsive gambler, Ellison had racked up massive debts to underground casinos, many of which were owned or controlled by the Vitale family. Faced with threats of exposure and harm, Ellison had become an unwilling pawn in the mafia's game. For years, Ellison had fed the Vitales inside information, often just enough to keep himself out of suspicion, while ensuring the mafia stayed one step ahead. He rationalized his betrayal as a means of survival, convincing himself that his actions were merely delaying the inevitable. But with the launch of Operation Black Diamond, his double life became increasingly difficult to manage. The high stakes of the mission meant that the FBI's scrutiny was sharper than ever, and cracks in Ellison's carefully constructed facade began to show. The first sign of trouble came when a planned FBI raid on a Vitale warehouse went catastrophically wrong. Acting on intel provided by Steele, the FBI expected to intercept a shipment of laundered money being transported through a front business. Instead, they walked into an ambush. The Vitales had been tipped off, and as the agents moved in, they were met with heavily armed enforcers. What should have been a routine operation turned into a bloodbath. 2 agents were killed, and several others were injured before backup arrived. The incident sent shockwaves through the Bureau. The meticulous planning behind the raid left no room for a simple mistake. Someone had to have leaked the details. Suspicion fell on various members of the team, but Ellison's long-standing reputation shielded him from immediate scrutiny. Meanwhile, the failure of the raid put Rachel's mission in jeopardy. The Vitales were on high alert, their paranoia escalating as they worked to identify the mole within their ranks. Unaware of Ellison's betrayal, Rachel continued her dangerous infiltration. She had managed to secure Enzo Vitale's trust, but his growing wariness meant that her every action was under closer surveillance. Her situation became even more precarious when Enzo introduced her to his uncle, Don Luca Vitale. Don Luca was a master manipulator, capable of reading people with uncanny precision. For Rachel, even the smallest mistake in his presence could unravel months of painstaking work. Meanwhile, the FBI began investigating the possibility of an internal leak. Agents combed through records, communications, and operational procedures, searching for any inconsistencies. As the pressure mounted, Ellison found himself cornered. He knew the walls were closing in, but his options were limited. The Vitales demanded more information, threatening to expose his gambling debts if he didn't comply. Caught between 2 forces, Ellison became increasingly erratic, making mistakes that drew unwanted attention. The tension within the FBI reached a breaking point when another key operation was compromised. A surveillance team monitoring one of the Vitale family's safe houses was ambushed and forced to retreat under fire. The loss of resources and morale was devastating, and whispers of betrayal grew louder. Ellison's actions had not gone unnoticed, and the FBI's Internal Affairs Division quietly launched an investigation into his activities. As the investigation progressed, the truth about Ellison's double life began to emerge. His debts, his clandestine meetings, and his subtle manipulation of case files painted a damning picture. But before the Bureau could act, Ellison made a desperate move. Fearing exposure, he provided the Vitales with one final piece of information: the identity of an undercover operative embedded within their organization. The revelation sent shockwaves through the mafia. Rachel's cover was now at risk, her life hanging by a thread. The FBI, still unaware of the betrayal, was blindsided when Rachel's regular reports abruptly stopped. Days passed with no communication, and the team feared the worst. Ellison's betrayal had not only jeopardized the mission but had set the stage for a confrontation that no one could predict. Rachel was now alone, deep in enemy territory, and her survival depended on her ability to outwit a family known for their ruthlessness. The FBI scrambled to regain control, but the damage had already been done. The hunt for justice had become a race against time, and the next move would determine the fate of everyone involved. The FBI's mission to take down the Vitale Mafia family seemed to teeter on the edge of collapse. Special Agent Rachel Steele, embedded deep within the criminal empire, had gone silent after an apparent betrayal from within the Bureau itself. With Rachel's fate uncertain and trust within the FBI shaken, the operation faced a crisis. But just as hope began to wane, an unexpected lifeline appeared from the most unlikely source: Matteo Vitale, the estranged son of Don Luca Vitale. Matteo had long been a black sheep in the family, his relationship with his father strained by years of resentment and perceived betrayal. Unlike his father and cousin Enzo, Matteo had no appetite for the family business. He viewed the mafia's brutality with disdain and had spent years trying to build a life far removed from their shadow. But Don Luca's influence was inescapable, and Matteo's attempts at independence were repeatedly thwarted by his father's long reach. Now, harboring deep bitterness and a desire for revenge, Matteo saw an opportunity to dismantle the empire that had defined his life. Contacting the FBI was a calculated risk. Matteo had no illusions about the danger he faced. He knew that betraying the Vitales could cost him his life, but his hatred for his father outweighed his fear. He offered the FBI something they had been searching for: the location of a secret ledger containing decades of financial records, detailing every illegal transaction, payoff, and bribe the Vitales had ever made. This ledger, hidden away in an unassuming suburban home, was the family's Achilles' heel. The revelation electrified the FBI. If they could secure the ledger, they would have the evidence needed to bring down not just the Vitales but the entire network of individuals complicit in their crimes. However, retrieving it posed significant challenges. The safe house where the ledger was kept was heavily monitored, and any move to retrieve it risked alerting the family. Time was also a factor. If the Vitales suspected Matteo's betrayal, they would undoubtedly move the ledger to a more secure location. The FBI devised an intricate plan to recover the ledger. A small, specialized team was assembled, their mission shrouded in secrecy to avoid further leaks. Posing as contractors working on a nearby property, the team surveilled the safe house for days, mapping out the guards' movements and identifying vulnerabilities. Matteo provided critical details, but his own involvement was limited. Any direct contact with the operation could expose him. The plan was as bold as it was risky. Under the cover of night, the team executed a stealth operation to breach the safe house. Every moment was tense, every sound magnified in the silence. The agents knew that discovery would not only compromise the mission, but could also reignite a wave of violence from the Vitales. As they entered the house, the tension was palpable. The safe where the ledger was stored was hidden behind a false wall in the basement, a detail Matteo had described in precise detail. Just as the agents located the safe, a complication arose. One of the family's guards, conducting an unscheduled patrol, entered the house. The team froze, their carefully laid plan now teetering on the edge of disaster. A single mistake could trigger an alarm, bringing reinforcements and endangering everyone involved. The agents held their breath as the guard moved through the house, his flashlight sweeping across the room. In a stroke of luck, the guard left without noticing the breach. The team quickly extracted the ledger and retreated, narrowly avoiding detection. The moment they reached the extraction point, the weight of what they had accomplished began to sink in. The ledger was now in FBI custody, a treasure trove of evidence that could unravel the Vitale empire. But the operation's success came with consequences. Matteo's betrayal did not go unnoticed for long. The Vitales discovered his role, and Matteo was forced into hiding, his life now in as much danger as Rachel's. Meanwhile, the FBI's victory was bittersweet. They had the ledger, but the battle was far from over. The Vitales would retaliate with ferocity, and the ledger's contents revealed a web of corruption that extended far beyond the family. As the Bureau pored over the ledger's details, a troubling realization emerged. Some of the names implicated were unexpected, high-profile individuals whose exposure could shake the foundation of law enforcement and politics. The stakes had never been higher, and the fight against the Vitale family had only just begun. The fallout from the FBI's recovery of the Vitale ledger was immediate and far-reaching. Within days, agents were combing through its meticulously detailed records, uncovering decades of corruption and criminal activity. The ledger named not only the Vitale Mafia family's inner circle, but also a network of politicians, law enforcement officers, judges, and business leaders who had benefited from or enabled their operations. It was the breakthrough the FBI had been chasing for years, but it also posed a dangerous dilemma. Exposing these names could destabilize institutions, and the Vitales would stop at nothing to destroy the evidence. Meanwhile, Special Agent Rachel Steele was still missing. Her cover blown after Mark Ellison's betrayal, the FBI feared the worst. Weeks passed without word, and while the Bureau intensified its search, they had little to go on. The Vitales had become increasingly paranoid, tightening their inner circle and silencing anyone they suspected of disloyalty. Rachel was presumed to be either dead or in the family's custody, her fate a painful reminder of the risks she had taken. Unbeknownst to the FBI, Rachel was alive but barely surviving. After Ellison's treachery, Enzo Vitale had exposed her as an undercover agent, and she became a captive of the family. They needed information about the FBI's plans and sought to use her as leverage. Held in a remote warehouse, Rachel endured relentless interrogation, but despite the constant pressure, she refused to break. Her resilience, combined with her training, allowed her to endure even as her captors became increasingly desperate. The FBI's investigation into Ellison's betrayal moved swiftly. Evidence of his corruption and ties to the Vitales surfaced, leaving no room for doubt. Confronted with the proof, Ellison confessed to his role as the mole, revealing the full extent of his dealings with the mafia. His confession, while a blow to the Bureau's morale, provided critical intelligence. Among his disclosures was the location of the warehouse where Rachel was being held. Armed with this information, the FBI launched a daring rescue mission. The operation was fraught with risk, as the Vitales had fortified the warehouse with armed guards and surveillance. A tactical team moved in under the cover of darkness, executing a precise assault to extract Rachel before her captors could react. The mission was a success, but not without casualties. The firefight left several agents injured, and the mafia's enforcers fought fiercely to protect their stronghold. When Rachel was finally freed, she was physically weakened but mentally unbroken. Her return to the FBI was a moment of triumph, but it also reignited the Bureau's determination to dismantle the Vitale empire for good. Rachel's first-hand knowledge of the family's operations, combined with the intelligence from the ledger, gave the FBI an unparalleled advantage. The final phase of Operation Black Diamond began in earnest. Armed with warrants, the FBI launched coordinated raids across the Vitale network. Safe houses, businesses, and residences were targeted, leading to dozens of arrests. Don Luca Vitale and Enzo, however, remained elusive. The family had gone underground, using their vast resources to evade capture. It was Matteo Vitale who provided the final piece of the puzzle. Still in hiding, Matteo reached out to the FBI with one last tip. His father and cousin were planning to flee the country, using a private airstrip outside the city. The Bureau mobilized quickly, setting up a blockade to intercept them. The confrontation was swift and intense. Enzo, defiant to the end, resisted arrest and was fatally wounded in the ensuing standoff. Don Luca, seeing the collapse of his empire and the loss of his heir, surrendered without a fight. The arrests of Don Luca and Enzo marked the end of an era for the Vitale Mafia family. With their leadership dismantled, The once mighty organization crumbled. The FBI's relentless pursuit had not only brought justice but also sent a message to criminal enterprises across the nation. However, the victory came at a cost. The lives lost and the betrayals endured served as a sobering reminder of the complexities of justice. As the dust settled, Rachel Steele received a commendation for her bravery and dedication. Her work undercover had been instrumental in dismantling the family, though she carried the scars both physical and emotional of her ordeal. Mateo, the reluctant son who had played a pivotal role in his father's downfall, disappeared into obscurity, seeking to rebuild his life far from the shadow of his name. The FBI turned its attention to the fallout from the ledger, pursuing cases against the web of corruption it revealed. While the battle against organized crime was far from over, the collapse of the Vitale Empire was a turning point. It was a victory forged through sacrifice and tenacity, a reminder that even the most formidable enemies could be brought to justice when determination met courage. Justice prevailed, but at what cost? The FBI's victory over the Vitale family was a testament to persistence and sacrifice. But as history has shown, the underworld never stays silent for long. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the shadows. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for more stories that challenge what we think we know about the world around us. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.